Hi everybody, welcome back to a 1.16 special episode of Minecraft Gadgets, and I'm shooting off this giant flying machine here, which I like to call the Under Lava Basalt Tunnel Maker. And if you're wondering why I call it that, here you go. It flies out under the lava and it forms basalt using the new 1.16 mechanics, and then it moves the basalt around and shapes it into this nice tunnel, punches out the sides for some lava lighting so that we can see our way down here, and then clears all the lava out of the tunnel so that we can walk around. Let's take a look inside it. So, as you can see, there's sort of a lot going on. It's a little hard to make sense of at first, but the basic concept to think about is that at the start we have a floor and ceiling of basalt, and then the machine flies along, pulls the blocks inwards into this sort of tunnel shape, punches out the sides, which you can see these pistons doing here, and then clears out the lava with this sort of scraper part at the back, and leaves us with a nice tunnel under the lava. And let's take a look at how it works. Now let's break down what the machine is doing. So a lot of people asked me for a tutorial when I posted a GIF of this online, but what I think is easier than a tutorial probably is giving you a world download so that you can look through at each piece of the machine. Almost no part of this machine has a block that's surrounded on all sides, so for the most part you can just sort of fly around, look at each block, and then you can take your own time rather than a block by block tutorial, which would also take a long time. So what I'm going to do for the explanation is just walk through what each part of this machine is doing so that when you're building it, you have, if you do want to build it, or if you're just curious, you have a sense what each part of the machine is intended to do and sort of how it actually works. So first of all, this is the machine in all its glory taken out of the lava, and basically I'm going to walk you through the machine from the back forward because the most complicated parts are at the back. Honestly, the front part that shapes the basalt is the simplest. So just to start with here at the front, some people are confused of where the basalt actually comes from. In 1.16, if you have packed or blue ice above soul sand and you put in lava flowing of a source block, it will turn into basalt. So as the machine flies, basalt gets generated at each block on this line and this line, and we take 2 lines of 7 basalt. And ultimately, we take those lines of 7 basalt and we turn them using some piston magic into the tunnel that you see in the GIF. So, starting at the back of the machine, this is the engine, which pushes the whole thing forward. And the whole thing is one directional. It flies until it crashes and makes the tunnel until it crashes. And this is the thing that makes the whole thing push forward, and it's actually important to note it's a slow flying engine. So the GIF is sped up, but if you actually watch this, it would be slower than your classic 2-part slime machine engine. And the reason for that is that when we do the alternating blocks, we actually have to have 2 sets of pistons fire before the machine is ready to be pushed forward. So this part back here, everything you see in front of you, is just the engine, and then the part that alternates pushing the blocks out of the side wall. So when this comes through, the tunnel is already formed. And this is the most complicated part of the machine because it fits inside the tunnel that we're making, as you saw in the GIF. Now, these white glass blocks represent the basalt blocks, which at this point are already shaped into the tunnel. And I just want to showcase why this part is so complicated, or more complicated at least. It's because the only place we can put slime blocks are in the red blocks here. Otherwise, they'd stick to the tunnel. Although we can, in these pink blocks, put anything that's non-sticky, like a piston or an observer or just any sort of solid block. So to make this slow flying machine, I had to make sure that all the honey and the slime fit inside that red 6-block area. And to make these alternating piston pushers, I also had to do the same thing. So you can see the only part that falls in the pink area is the pistons, which aren't sticky and won't cause troubles with the walls of the machine. And to the most detail I'll go into describing what this part does is that this sort of slime block and sticky piston here are the central key of the machine because they only have these pistons fire every other block, which is what has the lava flow down and generates light for the tunnel and just sort of generally makes it look cool. And the way that that works, it's a common technique used in flying machines, is that every time the machine flies forward, this piston is triggered once and it toggles the position of this observer. If the observer fires into the pistons, it fires both of them and they both push out, whereas if it fires into the honey blocks, they don't fire because honey blocks are transparent, which means they block the signal. So basically all we have here is a slime block side which connects the pistons that will push into the wall and a honey block side that toggles the observer, and that pushes the next component of the machine forward with these 2 pistons here. And as you can see, no observer has an exposed face, which means that even if this machine is flying through lava or water or falling blocks, none of them can trigger any of these pistons at the wrong time and cause a problem. So, just to show you what this all looks like in action, I'm just going to start the machine here. And you can see that each time it pushes forward, we toggle whether the observer is into the piston or into the honey blocks, and that determines when it pushes out. And then, of course, the sections connect, and ultimately we get the alternating pattern. Now, this over here is the slow flying machine on itself, which is sort of the start of what you're building if you're trying to copy from the world. And now I want to talk about how we actually push the basalt into the right place. So the first thing you'll see here is that at the start, the head of the machine, like I talked about, there's 7 blocks on the top and 7 blocks on the bottom that start out as basalt. And I have all this as white glass so that it's easier for you to see what's going on. So the first thing we do is that we take the outer and innermost blocks and we pull them down by 1. And you can see now we're already starting to form the tunnel shape of the machine. And then we have, this is sort of a more complicated part, we push 2 blocks down again on either side. So now you can see that these blocks are all actually in the right place from the tunnel before, if you'll notice. And then we pull up the bottom blocks like this on the inside. And this sort of starts to create the general shape. The biggest problem is getting these blocks on the outside up into this spot, because it's actually hard to have a piston here given that it's sort of far out from where I can put slime blocks. So now that we have this part up here, we're actually going to pull this bottom one up one more time on both sides, and then we use a sticky piston on the top and a regular piston on the bottom to flip which one of these is out and which one is in, and now we have the fully developed shape of the tunnel. And you'll see that on each side this only takes I think 8 pistons. So we have 8 pistons on each side to get the shape of the tunnel, which is why the sort of piston part of it is only about half the volume. Then we have the part where we push out the blocks on the side, lava flows down, and this alternates like we showed, and now we have our tunnel. So here's what the machine looks like, and I've prepared a demo without the head of the machine over here so that you can use a block like glass that's transparent, and you can actually watch the machine fly along and do its work. So the part with honey blocks, which goes up to here, is what I've showed you so far, and then the part that actually pushes the basalt blocks in place is all this slime here. And so you can see that if you were sort of to mirror these pistons over here, you would find that we have all the pistons in the corresponding order. It's just that they're connected with slime this time and with observers that don't show any open faces. So now, if we watch this, and we also put at the back here these blocks that you saw, this is just to clear water out of the tunnel. As you'll see, it takes up all the air blocks in the tunnel, so it removes all the lava from those air blocks and makes sure our tunnel is actually usable and not filled with lava. So if we just start the machine, you'll see it pushing forward, and of course we start with the outside blocks and we push them down like so, and on the bottom we pull up the block there and then we flip the position, and that gives us our final tunnel shape that I showed you. And now the part at the back with the alternating pistons comes through, and it's going to push all of that out in an alternating manner. And now that's actually the final shape of our tunnel. And here I'll stay at the front part, which is a little more interesting, where you can see we start with these 2 sets of 7, and then they're sort of curved inward, like that. You can see there's sort of a sticky piston that pulls down, and then a piston above that pushes down, like so. And then we have sort of the bulkiest part of the machine where I always get stuck. And then we have this area on the side. And until the back comes through, when this is happening in the actual lava, this is all filled halfway with lava, which is why the observers are important. And then finally, we end up with our desired configuration that's clear of lava here at the end. And then this over here, if you're building it, is just the front part, and I put it on the side in case you want to look at how it works. It's really simple, and it is unfortunately the part of the machine that limits how deep the lava lake can be, because we have to put this soul sand here. And that means that if there's netherrack or any block right here at the bottom, the machine will get stuck. So we need quite a lot of clearance. The one thing is that you could make this machine where you generate the bottom blocks of basalt further up, and then you wouldn't need to have it all the way at the bottom. And as you can see, when you actually look at the machine over there, this part is by far the widest. So if we generated the basalt, maybe like say at this level, but just later, we'd be able to have a machine that could make a tunnel in a lot less lava than it takes. But as it is, I just wanted to build it and prove that it could be done, just sort of showcase the idea, and people seem to like it. So I'll put this world up for download before I fired all these machines, and you'll be able to sort of look around, try and recreate it if you want, mess around with it. I mean, you could take this tunnel a whole lot of ways. I made it 3 wide so that if you wanted to put tracks down in 2 different lines, you could. There's not really a practical reason for it to be 3 wide. You could make one that's just 1 wide. That would be a lot smaller. Maybe you want to try and do that. So that's it for this episode of Minecraft Gadgets. I hope you I hope you enjoyed, and I suppose enjoyed is more important than liking the video, because honestly, I just want people to have a good time playing Minecraft in the new update. And I do have more slimeblock contraptions coming that are fun and cool and honestly not that practical. So if you like that kind of stuff, subscribe and stick around. Leave a comment letting me know what you thought about the style of the video, and I'll see you all next time.